one of the most intense competitors the game has ever seen. Kevin Garnett set a new standard for the modern big man, displaying versatility on both ends of the court. The Big Ticket won league MVP honors with Minnesota in 2004. As a Boston Celtic, he became an NBA champion in 2008.
They lob it to Garnett beneath the foul line. The fadeaway with a hand in his face in the air for the win! Yes, sir! Garnett gives Minnesota the win at Target Center! Kevin Garnett!
He was the most valuable player. He was the best player. I always tell him, man, he was doing things that year that Akeem Olajuwon was doing. He just put the team on his shoulders. I was just the guy who basically just finished the games. Kevin put so much energy and effort the first, 45 minutes of the game, and he just prided his stuff in getting me over. That's the thing people don't realize about Kevin Garnett. It ain't he prided himself in scoring and rebounding. I asked him one day, I said, Kevin, what you want to be known for? He said, I want to be known for being the best pick setter in the NBA. That's amazing. A guy with that kind of talent, that's the thing he wanted people to remember him by, just being a great pick setter, man. And he just had some bone-crushing picks. And we got to Boston, and the only way we won a championship because he sacrificed his basketball game for the betterment of the team. Kevin could have came to Boston and say, I'm gonna score 25 points, I'm gonna get 13 rebounds, but he knew that with Ray Allen and Paul Pierce and Rajon Rondo running the show.
And Kevin Garnett today was named the NBA's Defensive Player of the Year.
To have a kid come in the league at 19 and to evolve into an MVP, evolve into a champion, whoever team he was on, you felt like it was you against the world, right? And you had a dude that was never, ever, ever gonna give up. Never give up on a play, never give up on an assignment. You talking about intelligence, you talking about basketball IQ, you talking about, the ability to shoot, put the ball on the floor. He was one of the first big men that was bringing the ball down the court, crossing over, you know what I mean? Just, mixing, shooting jumpers. I think he opened the game up, right, for young power forwards to be versatile.
I'm so hyped right now. Anything's possible. Anything's possible!
When I was a kid, we didn't have much TV, and the only way I could watch any highlights was Inside Stuff on Saturdays. And I believe he was a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old All-Star in his second year. And they showed his highlights. There was one particular, I'll never forget. He blocks a shot, gets the rebound, pushes it up, gets it to the guard, sets the screen, gets the roll, finishes on the other end. And I had never seen that before, from someone that I always said looked like me. People always said, you're too thin, or you're not supposed to be bringing the ball up the court as a big. All of these things you shouldn't be doing. Everything that people told me I couldn't do, I saw him do. I saw a slim 7-footer with a smooth outside jumper. A guy that was athletic and could finish, that had that intense nature. A guy who could pick and pop. And most importantly, he was unselfish, playing with his teammates. He was a very underrated passer and very underrated in the sense of how unselfish he was.
Is there another level to which Kevin Garnett can climb?
Defensively, he engulfed the court. His length, his energy, his communication. He would yell our plays as we were yelling it so that we would have to have different signals like football to try and throw him off.
I'll never forget, there was one time we played him and I just gotten up from a timeout, and he had already gotten out of his timeout and he was waiting by the sideline where we got out of the timeout, and he was walking with me the entire way, nose to nose. And I was thinking in my head, this guy is something else, but that sums him up. We had some great battles, nothing but respect.
Garnett's gonna take it and make it.
KG, there's an on and off button for most people. I think there's an on and then an on button for Kevin Garnett. The story I would tell you is I always knew growing up, watching him in high school, and everybody raving about him, but I'll go back to the 2000 Olympics, and he played one-on-one versus pretty much, I think, 9 out of our 10 Olympians, or there was 10 or 11 of us. He did not lose a game, and the game was to play one-on-one going up and down, and it was me, Vince Carter, it was everybody. He ran through us as a 7-footer, basically playing one-on-one. That's kind of a guard type of one-on-one situation. He was by far that day, and obviously his talent, but we all was saying, wow.
Out of the left wing, bounce pass, Garnett diving in, hangs in the air, throws it off the window and in. Big fella! That's what I'm talking about!
I saw his journey from the McDonald's All-American game, and people thought he was crazy for coming out to the NBA at that time, but he maximized every single time he was on the court. His passion for the game is second to none. He was unselfish. He was someone who maximized pushing his teammates to get better. They told me a story when he was in Boston, and he was practicing a little bit too much for a guy that was playing that many minutes, and they made him sub out. And the guy that subbed in for him, KG, was on the sideline mimicking every single move he did. If it was a triple threat, if it was an up fake, if he was running back on defense, if he was running for a rebound, he did every movement the guy that subbed in for him did on the sideline.
Well, who better to assess Kevin Garnett's career than Sam Mitchell? You played with him, you coached him, you were with him so many stops along the way. What made KG great?
He wanted to be great. He understood the history of the game. He understood the responsibility of being a first-round pick, a lottery pick, and he had this burning desire to be great. And he knew everything about our careers, his teammates. He knew the history of the game. And so he was so refreshing as a rookie and played with so much confidence and just so ready to play. I remember the first day after about an hour and a half of practice, Doug West and I sitting on the sideline having a glass of Gatorade, and we turned and looked at each other and we said at the same time, we're going to tell our children that we played with Kevin Garnett one day. We knew that the first day of practice.
He was so demonstrative in terms of his emotions on the floor. Where did that come from? How genuine was that, and how did that fuel his game?
Matt, the weirdest thing about KG, if you watched him before a game, this ritual that he went through to get himself ready to play, first of all, he had this fear, and it was a healthy fear, but he always had this fear that he wasn't quite good enough. And that's what drove him, and that's the thing that I loved about him. He always never was satisfied. He always felt like the guy that he was getting ready to compete against, he had to show him and give him his best every night. And man, his leadership, how unselfish he was, and the fact that, Matt, the thing that was crazy about Kevin, I remember in training camp, cut day. He loved his teammates, and he loved the game so much, and he loved the fact that guys were trying to pursue their dreams. When guys would get cut, he would leave the building early. He would leave practice that day early because he couldn't stand seeing the disappointment on guys' face that they were being told that their dream was going to get put on pause at that moment when they were being released. He never was able to handle that in all the years I played with him. Flip would let him go home early on cut day.
Wow. The emotional commitment, the competitive fire, and the numbers, not just the contract numbers that gave him the nickname Big Ticket, but the stats as well. One of 3 players ever to amass 20,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, and 5,000 career assists.
Wow.
There's a side to him that I appreciate, and not a lot of people would think that, KG had this side. And, I went through some tough times with my ankle, and I remember one year after I had surgery once again, middle of the season-ending surgery, and he sent me a cake, and how he got my address, I don't know, but he sent a cake with a smiley face on it, just trying to, hey, keep your spirits up, whatever, and I don't think a lot of people would think a guy like Garnett, the ultimate competitor, trash talker, can be borderline cruel to guys, but showing that softer side. So, here a guy's going through it, a guy who he's competed against, and just sending a cake, trying to lift someone's spirits. Like, I will always remember that with Kevin, but also understanding that there's another side, the other side to Kevin Garnett that the public doesn't always get to see. A loyal guy, a lot of substance, good people, when he's not talking trash.